Hello, baseball fans. I'm Ken O'Neill. Welcome to another edition of Commissioner's Corner. Today, our guest is Gary Hoover, the president of the Northwood League, the largest collegiate summer league in North America. The for-profit league is in its 26th season and now has 22 teams and over 600 players. It plays a whopping 72-game schedule plus playoffs, by far the most in summer ball. Spread across 7 states and Canada, the Northwoods League plays in front of enthusiastic small-town communities and draws more fans than any league in North America. Northwoods has advanced more than 200 players to Major League Baseball, including 3-time Cy Young Award winner Max Scherzer and Chris Sale. The Northwoods League is the league most like minor league baseball. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ken O'Neill, and this is Commissioner's Corner, and I'm speaking today with Gary Hoover of the Northwoods League. And Gary, thank you very much for appearing on the show.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Your league started in 1994.
Yes.
And this is the league. Well, first of all, tell us where you are and what the league consists of, how many teams and where they're located.
Sure. League's headquartered in Rochester, Minnesota. We're spread out through the upper Midwest mainly, but, it continues to swell, and we push the boundaries a little bit. We extend as far west currently as Bismarck, North Dakota, as far north as Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada, as far south as Kokomo, Indiana, and as far east, arguably, you could say it's one of the Michigan teams. There are 3. There's Traverse City, where I'm very nearby right now. There's Battle Creek and Kalamazoo, and then there are a bunch of teams in between those locations, concentrated mainly in Wisconsin, Minnesota. We have 1 team in Iowa and 1 team in Illinois.
Now, of all the leagues I've looked at, last year I helped with the Upstate New York League. They have between 10 and 12, maybe 16. You have 22 teams.
Yeah.
How did you get so many teams? Because there's, 25 players, 20 players on each team? That's a lot.
30. We have a roster for 30. So, yeah, we have a lot of players times 22. I think it's a compliment, if you will, a tribute to the business model. We are very fortunate and grateful that we have 22 teams. We always have an eye towards expansion. The model caught on. And all you have to do is kind of look around at the various teams. We're providing a terrific product in a variety of communities. It's within a large variable size of each of these communities. So we have a very successful team called the Madison Mallards in Madison that averages 6,600, or capacity 65 to 6,700, averages north of 6,000 people a game in attendance. People see that kind of experience and they want to have it where they are. And as a result, our model has caught on. We're a for-profit summer collegiate baseball league, and we have great affiliates and great operators who bring a great product to those 22 communities.
Now, every league has a mission statement that they talk about. What is your mission statement? And I also want to know how you recruit, since apparently there's 80 summer leagues, which is unbelievable. I didn't realize there was that many. So how do you go about recruiting?
It's a wonderful point, Ken, and it's gotten harder. Because of the success, because of the trend towards summer collegiate leagues, certainly there weren't 80. Frankly, in candor, I think that's a signal that people are seeing what the Northwoods League has done and have tried to emulate it. There are other such summer collegiate leagues as well established, and have done terrific in different parts of the country. Player recruitment is done mainly at the team level. It's a relationship business. I think the coaches or the field managers from each of our teams bring certain relationships with them. And then in addition to that, there's sort of an institutional set of relationships that have built over the years between the leagues, teams, and certain colleges throughout the country. We're recognized as a terrific developmental opportunity. If the right player fits the right moment, I think players who want to test their mettle come find out how competitive they can be and put their talents on display. Northwoods Leagues.
Now, with 22 teams, what kind of challenges do you have to do with transportation and getting people from one place to the other? Because you're in a whole bunch of different states. How does that work?
Yeah, another great question. It's obvious you've been talking to some different organizations.
Yes, we have.
Yeah, transportation, particularly when you expand, and we jokingly and I guess seriously say, we're sort of the victim of our success in that regard because for example, and this is a sort of anecdote about how this plays out. We were a 20-team league last year, and because of our playoff format that was in place, and we've modified both our divisional makeup and our playoff format because of this question, these types of things, we ended up having to we had to make arrangements for an aircraft charter in order to get, if it had played out in the playoffs that one of the Michigan teams, i.e. Kalamazoo or Battle Creek, was going to face Bismarck, North Dakota in the playoff with a best of 3 series, getting them to and from each other's location over that geography required air transportation. I don't think many summer collegiate leagues had that same problem.
Not at all. More like high school buses, perhaps. Yes.
Yeah. But we made a split this year. We've divided now into 2 divisions. We have the Great Lakes Division and the Great Plains Division. And that's given us some degree of flexibility with respect to managing scheduling across such a broad footprint and across quite so many teams.
Now, every league, especially in the major leagues, I just went down to New York with the Stanton Bobblehead Day.
Oh, nice.
What kind of promotions do you have? Because you said you had 6,500 people at one game. I mean, that's as many as the Tampa Bay Rays get, for heaven's sakes.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite parts. Let me just say as part of the answer here, so we focus on player experience and we focus on fan experience, and the types of activities, promotions really lend themselves well. I think if you came to almost every Northwoods League ballpark, you'd have a surprise with the quality of the food. Obviously, the play is terrific. And we try to be very innovative. We're trying to promote innovation. Our operators are very clever. They've run the gamut. You'll see in between innings entertainment ideas that are exciting and kind of fun. Often there's a youth experience. There's a lot of bobbleheads. You mentioned bobbleheads. Bobblehead promotions. I was just in our Lakeshore Chinooks affiliate ballpark. I take a big swing every year and go through all the ballparks. I was just last week in many of them, one of them being Lakeshore, happened to be bobblehead night. And I show up about an hour and a half early, and there were people lined up, and it was for the bobblehead. And the Lakeshore Chinooks is a really, interesting story. There's an ownership group there led by a man named Jim Kazmarek, who's a local businessman, very giving to his local community. But he's joined in his ownership group with some names you might recognize. There's this guy named Robin Yount.
Yes.
In that ownership group. And so they really take advantage of that connection with Robin to create bobbleheads. He comes to the ballpark. There are promotional merchandise products that are there with respect to Robin. He's been a big part of what's gone on in the Mequon Lakeshore Chinooks market. There's another guy in that ownership group who's kind of a hoot named Bob Euchre.
Oh, all right. Bob Euchre, yes.
So, you can see where those kinds of, that participation lends itself well. And that's true, not just in Lakeshore. You wouldn't have those same recognizable names in every situation, but you have the same spirit and you have the same creativity, and oftentimes the participation of other former major leaguers. By way of example, Madison has a former major league manager, and various teams have little things that make them unique, and I think attract our fans and provide that experience we're trying to promote.
Now, we had a survey that said that 58% of the leagues prefer 50 or more games, and 42% want fewer than 50. How did you determine, with all those teams, how many games to play each year?
Well, the Northwoods League sets the trend here. There's a lot of discussion about season length. We're 72 games, regular season, plus 4 or more in each location, plus with our new playoff format, additional games. So the season's got a lot of games, but if you want to find out if you are a match for the minor league professional experience, what you're going to go to from your collegiate experience, you can get an advanced look. And here's the important thing. the scouts can get an advanced look to see how well a player handles that particular type of schedule. They go on buses, they go from game to game, they stay in hotels, they have a big schedule, they play great talent night after night, and it starts to show. And it starts to provide information that's very valuable to professional scouts when it comes time to identifying talent.
Now, how do the college coaches with a 72 game, that's all summer, how do they react? Are they helpful to you? Do they give consideration? How does that work?
So we've implemented strict pitching guidelines, for example, because that would obviously be one of the concerns is, are we taking care of the players? And we have implemented and enforced those pitching guidelines. We know that if we don't treat the players well, the coaches aren't going to want to send them to us. So it's working is the bottom line answer to your question, Ken. We want to continue to enhance those relationships, have the feedback go with each player back to their respective colleges so they talk not only to their coaches but to their fellow players, locker room talk, clubhouse talk, whatever you want to call it, to talk about what a great experience it has been. Let me also share real quick with you, Ken, an anecdote that I think is very telling. You mentioned how we promote and the length of the season in conjunction with one, consecutively. It reminds me of the fact that the Major League All-Star game for the last 2 years has had two starting pitchers, a guy named Max Scherzer and a guy named Chris Sale, who faced off with one another. They played on the same team in the Northwoods League, not at the same time, but they are both lacrosse loggers.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. And we have asked both those gentlemen to speak to us to reflect about their experience. And what they told us was that if you want to find out about yourself and if you want to become a better player, and they both are very enthusiastic on these points, in my opinion, that they think the Northwoods League is a terrific developmental platform because of the length of the season, because of the breadth of the footprint, and because of that player experience that encompasses so much of what's very similar to minor league professional baseball.
Now, as far as the actual game itself, the big thing now in the International League is at the 10th inning, well, I don't know if it's the International League, but maybe lower leagues, where in the 10th inning it's tied, you put a guy on second base, and that's how they do it. Some leagues also have a slaughter rule. What type of rules do you have in that regard?
We implemented this year the 10th inning, put a runner on second base.
Did you? Okay. So what do they think about? What do the players think about that?
Well, I'm not aware of it having been used yet this season. I can double check that. So I don't have any specific information on that. I can tell you that I saw it firsthand in the Michigan Whitecaps Stadium down in Grand Rapids, Michigan at Fifth Third Ballpark in their run towards the playoffs last year. So I saw firsthand how that worked with the crowd. And it's pretty exciting. And the baseball purists, and we are baseball purists in the Northwoods League, it was a hard, carefully considered decision with respect to making that the rule this year. But when you take into account the fact that it in certain instances shortens the game, it reduces the number of pitches, and it doesn't diminish fan excitement, seemed like a pretty good idea. So
how are the Wilmar Stingers doing? We have to pick one team for the league. How are they doing this year?
They're doing great. They're in the hunt.
Good.
Yeah, they had a big winning streak going, and I haven't looked yet today. I think they might be on top of their standings. I do love going out there. It's a great story. I would encourage anybody that gets up in the Wilmer area to really go and see what's going on at that ballpark. It's a relatively small market. Wilmer, Minnesota does not have an enormous population, but it is the place to be. And we really like what it delivers to the community. I've been to a number of games there now, and there's the stands are full. They're wearing Stinger wear. They really take pride in the team, and I think it really brings a great summer entertainment to that community. So, and the Stingers play hard. they're in it this year.
And it's almost with so many teams and so many players, it must be fun to watch a game where there's 6,500 people. I mean, it's a whole community. It's fantastic. I think it's wonderful. Now, as far as the playoffs are concerned, you don't see in our league last year it was just one game. You win or two games actually, 4 teams, whatever. With 22 teams, how many people or how many teams are in the playoffs?
Well, we split into the divisions. So we take, we've got 8 teams starting a 3-game, best of 3-game formula, which is good. So that teams, and then they advance, and then it's a single game. And then that gets us to our Summer Collegiate World Series game, which is the fun.
And a couple more questions. For instance, some leagues use wood bats, some use the clink bats. What kind of bats do you use and why?
We're wood bat, because that's what they use in the pros.
Good.
And, we use minor league spec ball. We use a wood bat. We're measuring statistics this year. We've installed statistical measuring devices in 8 of our stadiums. I think it's 8 this year we're getting up to, and we're collecting that data. And, it's telling a story. So, yeah, wood bats. It's fun. Sounds right, too, by the way.
Well, I thank you very much for meeting with us. I would like to keep up with you. We would like to keep up with you. And you can see this on YouTube. You can see it on the baseballregister.com. We'd like you to keep us informed about what's going on. And I have relatives in Michigan. I'd like to drive there and come and see you guys play. I really would.
Yeah, Ken, I'm talking to you right now from just outside Traverse City, Michigan. At 7:05 tonight, I will be at Pittsbitters Stadium watching the Traverse City Pittsbitters play a game, and it's a fabulous stadium. It's new to the league this year. It's beautiful. And if you're up this way, and if you're down in the southern western part of Michigan, Kalamazoo has the Growlers play at Homer Stryker Field, and the Battle Creek Bombers play at C.O. Brown Stadium. And
that's fantastic. All right, one more question that I should have asked earlier. How did you get involved? How did you become the commissioner or the president?
President of the league, and here's where anybody that's listening is going to go, oh, really? I was the league's lawyer.
Well, that's great. That's okay. That's
for a number of years. It was a great experience. Played a role, in a variety of things that took place in the league. And over a period of time, our chairman, Dick Raditz Jr., whose father's was the famous Red Sox reliever, and he played obviously in other major league teams. But Dick has this terrific baseball pedigree, and it was my great, I'll call it honor, privilege, to come to work with the league as its lawyer, and then over time, ultimately transition into this role, which is, I say is a hoot, but it's more than that. It's a privilege.
Well, we want to tell everyone that we've been talking with the Northwoods League, Gary Hoover. He's the president. Gary, thank you very much, and we'll talk to you on down the line.
You take care.